Welcome to the Black Swan Yoga Podcast. I'm Madeline Chen, and I'm excited to be here today with Patsy Montoya. Today, we are diving into the world of Ayurveda, which is a beautiful practice that's complementary to your yoga practice that can help you with so many aspects of your life, your health in physical body and your mind and your total well-being. Patsy is a wealth of knowledge on the topic of Ayurveda, having just led a continued education module for our yoga teacher training program, and I'm really excited to interview her on this amazing topic. Thanks for being here, Patsy.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to talk about something that has really impacted my life and had such positive changes in my physical and mental, as you said, well-being. And it was so cool is that it's such old knowledge. It's ancient, but they're things that are so steady, so good for us that we can do today in all holistic, all natural ways to heal and to find balance.
That's exciting. I love Ayurveda as well because you can bring in little parts of it. It doesn't have to be a total life haul or change. You can bring in little aspects or practices into your life. So in the podcast today, I hope that you gain a few tips and tricks on how to welcome a happier, more peaceful, and healthy lifestyle for you. So let's begin by talking about what we're talking about. What is Ayurveda?
Yeah, so Ayurveda, if we break down the meaning of the word Ayurveda, Veda means study or sacred knowledge, and Ayur can be translated to mean life. So really we're looking at the study or the science of life. And there's so many aspects to that, obviously. One of my favorite things about this particular practice is that it's not a one-size-fits-all type thing. Like they give you so many different things to implement into your life depending on your characteristic of who you are as a human being and what season we're in too. But this particular science, this is actually, Ayurveda is known as the first medicine ever, the first medical science ever known to man, which is really incredible. They say that it's been around for at least 5,000 years, if not more than that. Some people are saying up to 10,000 years ago that we had this science. So it's really, as I said before, ancient, and these holistic tools that I think it's so interesting that I feel like we've gotten so much medicine and technology and, we really have grown and evolved, but we still go back to these tools time and time again for that balance.
That's awesome. And going in a little bit deeper about it, so it's one of the oldest medicine systems. Where is it from? What culture is it derived in? And maybe how does it connect to yoga?
Yeah, so it's from India. It has roots in India, and we first see it in the oldest books actually known to man, the Vedas, which are these books written by spiritual human beings of the time called rishis, who basically studied the life around them and their own internal life. And they came up with different practices like meditation and asana. And the Vedas are yoga is actually seen in the Vedas as well. So Ayurveda and yoga are seen as sister sciences, as, two sister practices as they grew up together is what I like to say.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool that yoga has really gotten more popular in the West, but now I feel like is the time for us Westerners to know more about Ayurveda as well. I think that it's, we've really gotten, yoga's been mainstreamed and we've really gotten turned on to this aspect of yoga and we're digging deeper. I think it's the time for us to take this whole holistic picture.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm really excited. It's such an awesome topic.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about the foundation or what are the core beliefs in Ayurveda?
Yeah. So there are 8 limbs of Ayurveda, which is very similar to yoga. There's 8 limbs in yoga. And in yoga, one of the limbs is asana, what we know as our postures, our physical practice. And similarly to that, one of the limbs in Ayurveda is our internal medicine. So, what we put into our body, our nutrition. And I think that a lot of people look at Ayurveda as just that one limb, but there's so many others. One of the limbs that Ayurveda studies is actually aphrodisiacs. So, looking at our sexual health as human beings and looking at that as an important part of our lives. Another way that we look at it is like one of the limbs is pediatrics. So, that is not only children, but also with women's health, pre and postnatal. It's really fascinating. One of the limbs is actually surgery. So performing, maybe gallbladder removal, things that they were doing way back
Really?
in the
Wow.
day. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Fascinating. Yeah.
At first, I thought you were I was seeing a pattern of maybe the limbs correlating to the 7 chakras in a way of like the different energy centers, but maybe not
cool.
Surgery. I don't know. Which one would it be related to? I don't know.
I don't know. But I do feel that correlation between the chakras and Ayurvedic science because we're dealing with elements. In our chakra system, we have the elements of the chakras, and then we also have 5 essential elements that we look to in Ayurveda. And the system, the belief is that every single thing has some of these elements. So us as human beings, the nature around us, everything that is around us, they have elements of space, ether, fire, water, and earth.
That's awesome. So even like inanimate objects and
absolutely.
Okay, interesting. Like our clothes and stuff like that.
Yep.
That's so interesting.
Like actually even just the earlier Maddie said, "What are you wearing?" And I responded with a pink flowy top. And so when we even think about my description there, I would say that's elements of like wind and ether, flowy.
Totally.
So,
That's so cool. Or the material or fiber you wear.
Exactly.
Interesting. Maybe changing that with the seasons based on if you need to be warm or cold.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So everything has the 5 elements. And I would guess that each thing has a different combination of the elements.
Yes.
But we all have everything.
Yep, we all have we have
Space.
all 5 elements. Yeah. And when we look at space physically, we think of like where like the nasal cavities or the ears where there actually is space, like canals or the nerves, canals or channels running in the bodies.
Yeah, even our veins. That's so neat.
Yes.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So that's the foundation. Those are like the main core beliefs, the 5 elements.
Yes.
And the 8 limbs.
Yep.
Well, do we say limbs or 8 parts of Ayurveda?
Right.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And so we take these 5 elements and they're broken into 3 constitutes or what we call doshas. And we see these 3 doshas in personal characteristics in us as well as seasons. So ether and air are one, those 2. And that could be, like think of wind and then space might be a better way to describe that. And that is one dosha. And that particular dosha is called Vata. And I'll talk about what the characteristics of Vata personality and Vata season looks like. But think of wind and ether or space. Another one is water and fire. And this water and fire one is called Pitta. And again, it could be a season or a personality. And lastly is earth and water, primarily earth, and with Pitta, primarily fire, I'll say. But they do share that water quality, and that is Kapha, Kapha, Kapha.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the 3 doshas are a secondary part of the 5 elements.
Absolutely.
And we have personality traits, physical traits, parts of the body. So in my understanding of the doshas and how Ayurveda might work, an Ayurvedic practitioner will assess a person as their care provider and assess them based on their dominant dosha or dominant doshas if there are multiple. I've even heard of some people being tridoshic,
Yes.
3 doshas.
Yes.
So confused. That's me. Anyways.
Well,
But
you know what's interesting? There are people who are tridoshic who have all 3 qualities very strong, but it's very, very rare. And so it's interesting that you said it's so confusing, because they say that if someone thinks that they're tridoshic, typically it means that all 3 are just out of balance in the body at that time. But we are born with one primary dosha that will always be our primary dosha, but we will go through seasons of life where maybe we're feeling a different way, a different, stronger in vata, even though our primary dosha is pitta. But yes, an Ayurvedic practitioner will assess everything based on once they figure out what your primary dosha is, they'll ask you everything from your childhood traumas to your dreams, what you're doing in the morning, how much water you drink, what temperature your food is at when you eat it. Yeah, it's really
that's so interesting.
Fascinating. Mm-hmm.
So is that why you're saying the dosha qualities of personality rather than physical characteristics, because your body can change so much?
Absolutely.
So like you're born with your personality. Is that what the belief is? Or, okay. And your physical constitution ebbs and flows.
Exactly.
How interesting.
It really is. And if you really want to take it even a step further, I've been starting to think about, well, what is my physical quality right now is this dosha. My mental quality right now is more this dosha. And then spirituality for me is this dosha.
Wow, that's so neat.
Yeah. And it's going to be different from person to person and seasons of life.
That's so cool. The concept of being born with your personality or a soul is such an interesting thing to think about. Are you born, what's your belief? Do you have a soul? Do you not believe in having a soul or a spirit? Is it your soul that is your dosha, or is it just your personality? I like this where we're going, because to me, I really love to take my spiritual practice into a scientific way. For me, science and spirit are interlinked, and we think they're separate, but really, like, the 5 elements make up the doshas, and the dosha is your innate characteristic. Maybe it is your personality, or you can turn it into another concept of your spirit and your soul, this like consciousness that you're born with. So that's really neat for me to think about the elements, maybe what time of year you're born in, or who you are and what place in the world you were born. And really, it's cool to think about at least I'm just thinking about your soul, maybe correlating with this more scientific aspect of nature. That's
Absolutely.
Neat.
Yeah.
How interesting.
It's pretty cool.
The study of life.
Right. The study of life.
Ayurveda. That's awesome.
And even my teacher, said, if you have an altar at your house, it might be a good idea to have pictures of your parents on there. And I was like, oh, that's very sweet. Thinking, giving them thanks and gratitude as you meditate. And she's like, oh, no. It's just to remind you of their primary doshas and where you came from.
Oh my God. My mom would love that. Every time she visits, she's like, why are there no photos of me in the house? She mailed me a framed photo of her. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can you guess her primary dosha?
Yes. And let's talk about that. So,
okay, cool.
If we have these elements of primarily fire and water that we see in someone's personality, what do I mean by that? What does a fiery person look like? And what do the qualities show personality-wise? And so now I'm talking about a pitta personality, pitta person.
And it's so interesting to me that water and fire are paired together.
I know.
What the hell?
What? I think we got to have some water so it doesn't get out of control. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go on. It's just so interesting,
I know.
The pairing.
Yeah,
cool.
It really is. But, my Ayurvedic practitioner, she said, really focus on the fire and don't get... because that is what pitta is the fiery personality. So I'm going to start with the imbalance, the out of balance, I should say. a Pitta personality out of balance is very angry. It shows up as anger. And when it is in balance, a Pitta personality, very motivated, driven, go, go, go. They are the type of people that we see as leaders typically. They are goal-oriented managers. And so those are some qualities that we see in their personality. And then physically, this is the type of person that we would say, and this is going by the book, would look very fit, muscular, because they're active. They're very, very active. And they're also the type of people that are particular with their food. They tend to be very, not even necessarily picky, but they're specific about what they eat. And that makes sense for them to have, a very athletic build, because if they are active, then they are going to be conscious of what they're putting into their body as fuel. A Pitta man, typically they say, will bald sooner than another doshic man. Yes.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Beware, everyone. I'm just kidding. Bald is sexy, all right? How interesting.
I know. And so Ayurvedic, a big part of Ayurvedic is the digestive tract. They say that the key to health is through digestion. And there is a word in Sanskrit, Agni, Agni, and that means internal fire. And so this is looked at with the digestive tract of how much fuel we burn, so the food that we put in. So a big conversation in Ayurvedic is poop. So a Pitta person is said to have a lot of Agni, a lot of that internal fire. So it's going to be going to the bathroom often, going number 2 often, and it might not be solid. Sorry, we need like a warning on this one.
Emoji in the title.
So that is Pitta people. The go-go-goers, the doers,
pooers.
the pooers.
Okay.
But, again, if it's out of balance, that's when we see anger. So to bring more balance to a Pitta person, we need more elements of earth and maybe even air, So grounding practices are wonderful for a Pitta person. Like if I had a Pitta person coming up to me and saying, I'm just angry all the time, I'd recommend them to go see an actual Ayurvedic doctor. But B, I would encourage them to do restorative yoga, to really ground down, to be still, to be with themselves. I'd probably, tell them to hop on bsy.tv and check out our restorative yoga and our meditations on there specifically for grounding.
It's so funny too, because I feel like Pitta people tend to lean into their Pitta or fire and lean into what they normally do to try to make things better. So like as an example, if you feel imbalanced, you feel angry, and you have this fire within, a lot of times to get that out, people exacerbate it through exercise, more exercising, running, lifting, yogaing, doing a million chaturangas, whatever it is, just like this will tire me out.
Yes.
But instead, it'll really maybe deplete you in a different type of way. So I love that you're saying, go to the opposite, the yin, the yang, the opposite within.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And that is the concept that we're really looking for to find balance is like and like equals out of balance. It's too much of one element. So I'm saying fire and fire is out of balance. But like and opposite will bring you into balance.
Cool.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
Fire and earth in balance.
Awesome. Pitta.
Yes. Yeah. And what's cool too is you actually see, they say in the physical characteristics, triangles or sharp, more like sharp ridges in the features physically. like someone who might have a chin very pointed going down, or a very shiny smile that makes it, like a diamond. Yeah.
Interesting. I haven't heard this shiny smile.
I know.
If you wear a grill with a bunch of diamonds in your teeth.
Yeah, very pitta.
Throwback. Hey, it's still a thing, I think. Oh my gosh. Cool.
Yeah. So that's one of the doshas when we're looking at it physically in a person and in our human characteristics. And I want to just say really fast too, that these doshas are also seasonal. So we're looking at fire. This is what we know as the season of summer. This is the season where it is hot and, we're sweating more. And so typically, we want to look at where we are in nature to connect better with our own nature. So a pitta person in a pitta season definitely needs to ground, or go for a swim, cool off that way. And I would even say, not even swim laps, but more so swim and just like wade, just hang out and chill.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So now let's talk about kapha.
Cozy kapha.
Yes, kapha is my primary dosha. And this is a place of earth. This is a place where, I'll go ahead and say if it's out of balance, it appears in depression. It appears in sluggish, feeling heavy, feeling drained constantly, just really lethargic. And a kapha person tends to be the more loving and caring, nurturing person who, something out of balance also is when it's so easy for them to put everyone first. And so they get left behind. Self-care just doesn't happen typically for a kapha person when they're out of balance because they are so caring and they really are genuinely like sincere people who want to help other people. So a kapha person physically will have more rounded traits. So we're now looking at the physical build being more curvy, rounded, bigger, plump cheeks and big eyes. The skin of a kapha person is typically more oily. So yeah, and then kapha season is what we would look at as springtime when things are coming up. We're planting our intentions, and it's a good time. It's like, for me, springtime is like this time of love. Like, it's just like, oh, we're coming out from winter. Let's be together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the elements are earth and water.
Yes.
So you can kind of think of in the seasonal aspect, like really fertile soil, fresh spring rains in the soil, the earth. I love how the physical characteristics of more roundedness match the earth.
Yes.
Unless you're a flat earther. I don't know. Lots of, stuff on Netflix about that. But it's so cool how they work together and it's a new life.
Yeah.
Very hopeful, I think. Like you're talking about the personality being really nurturing and giving. You have to be really rooted in that hope of new life. And that makes sense to why if you're unbalanced, you have depression and like lack of hope, despair,
100%.
death, essentially the opposite, all of that.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up, where you live, because I actually like to look at different cities and try to guess the dosha of different cities.
Oh my God, fun. Seattle?
Yes. Seattle. Oh, water.
Probably kapha. I don't know.
Yeah. I could see that.
Oh my God. Arizona would definitely be pitta.
Right. Yeah.
Well, maybe a little vata. So try.
Yeah, I would say vata.
We're going down a rabbit hole.
I know. I think Austin, since we're in Austin, is very kapha. We have the water, the river, and earth. The green belt.
Everyone is very slow.
Yes.
On their own time.
Yes, they are.
Be there at 10, aka 10:45.
Yeah. Whereas I just gave it away, but New York City, it's go, go, go.
Totally.
You better be there on time. Very pitta.
Totally. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
wow.
very rigid.
Contemplating relocation as we speak. No, I'm just kidding. It's good, if you have a dominant dosha to be balanced and root yourself in something else, right? If you're Pitta living in New York City, could be good. Maybe for the long run, might be depleting you.
Absolutely.
Maybe not. Everybody's different.
It definitely,
That's
100%.
So
yeah. And that's why too, it's like when we look at, if we take a dosha quiz or we look at different aspects of our life and we just take a quick look and we're like, okay, I'm Pitta. I wouldn't pigeonhole yourself, because we have to remember that Ayurveda is the bigger picture. There's so many different aspects of your life that might not be Pitta, and we need to nurture all of them.
And the seasons, you may be one, but the seasons are changing around you. Where you live and your external influences, what you can eat, what, food you have access to or what type of job you're in.
Yes.
They can kind of stimulate different things within you. So that's so interesting.
It's fascinating.
I'm so hungry for all these different types of food. Pitta food would be more like, would it be spicy food?
No, that would actually, so think of like and like.
Cool. Opposite.
Yes. So
Pitta food is like bland?
Sweet is what they really would need. Something more nurturing.
Ah, interesting.
Where they're going to be, and one thing to look out for is when you're starting to go out of balance, they say that you are being attracted to and drawn to, like a Pitta person would want to keep their Tabasco bottle in their purse. They would really want that spice, but it might not be the best thing for them.
Might give them more diarrhea.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh, and so we didn't talk about Kapha's digestive.
Back to the poo, everyone.
Kapha is constipation.
The opposite
Sluggish.
of Pitta.
Yep.
Slow.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, and unbalanced.
Right.
In an unbalanced state.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So they maybe should eat some more spicy food.
Yeah, definitely. Get that
more
fire
Vata
going.
food, like
vegetables. Yep.
Salad.
Yeah.
Green stuff.
Greens.
Okay, cool. Awesome. One more to go.
So awesome. Vata. Yeah. So Vata people, and this one is really, I love Vata characteristics. I like to look at it firstly in the sense of it's the only dosha that doesn't share another element with the other two doshas.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Whereas Kapha and Pitta share the water element. Vata's, up in space, mysterious kind of by itself, which is very much the characteristic of a Vata person. The forward-thinking person, the artistic mind, the creative, very Vata. The out of balance state mentally is anxiety. So, and when we think of this, it's like this space or this wind, and it's just rustling or shaking, and that's anxiety. Nothing's really moving or happening, but there's something there.
How interesting. I like how you say nothing's really moving, but you feel like it is.
Yes.
It's going too fast, but it's really actually,
Yeah.
Oh, man. I relate to that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Another quality of out of balance is not being able to sleep, being up all nights being up all hours of the night. And the physical traits are, this is the type of person who forgets to eat. It's like 5 p.m. and you're like, oh, are you hungry? And they're like, oh, I haven't even ate today and I didn't even think about it. Forgets to eat. But then if they work out once, they lose so much weight. It's very difficult for them to gain weight. It's really difficult for them to hold substance because they're all space. It's all air. Their joints, they're the ones who pop their joints more often than not because that's space and air in the body. And the digestive tract, possibly more gassy because we're holding on to that air, but maybe some constipation, but in a different way than Kapha. Kapha constipation is going to be really heavy, whereas Vata constipation is going to be more gassy. Something's in there, the anxiety. Something's happening, but nothing's moving.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow. So Vata people, what do they typically, their characteristics or jobs? What might you see as a typical person?
So I think of the Bill Gates he's very Vata, was very Vata, forward thinking. I think of LA, this place of creative energy. And people who, maybe musicians, artists, or just people who, as I said, forward thinking. That's a huge part of being a Vata, being able to think ahead in a creative way. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yes.
Artists, musicians,
innovators,
scientists, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Cool.
There's definitely this sense of, and I think it's because they don't share any of the elements. There's this sense of mystery with the Vata person, the sense of, for me, the Vata dosha was like the hardest to understand until recently, because it's just not a shared element. I thought for a while that I was Kapha Pitta, but now that I'm learning more about Vata, I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm actually Kapha Vata more so.
Cool. So interesting. I'm all three. Yeah. Just some things out of balance.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so interesting to study.
Yeah, it really is.
So it applies to yoga, obviously with the growth of the culture and the spiritual aspect and health and wellness. But how does this more so directly apply to our yoga practice or as yoga teachers? How can we apply this knowledge to help our students?
So a Vata person is typically the person who's more spacey as well, maybe forgetful, or just, they have so many ideas. It's hard for them to focus on one. So giving them pranayama techniques, breathwork techniques, or meditations that really have a drishti or a focus included in them would be really important for a Vata person. And there might be some aspects of earth needed. Like they might just be so up in the clouds that they forget to come back down. So I would say, again, restorative yoga might be really helpful for the Vata person. Whereas the Kapha person is already feeling so sluggish that they could really use the heated power yoga classes.
Gotcha. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
What about the Pitta people?
Pitta, restorative earth, or add in there, maybe they need some more air. And so a class that would be focused on finding balance for a Pitta person, I would theme it more on balance and inversions.
Nice. Or maybe pranayama, breathwork.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Definitely.
That would be.
Yeah, invite that more characteristics of wind and air.
Cool. How interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's so much. I feel like we went into a lot, but there's still so much to learn about Ayurveda. I really am so glad that you're leading this 25-hour continued education module for us, all about Ayurveda, because it can be really life-changing. Even bringing in like little practices in the morning to start your day based on your dosha, or throughout your day, or going all in.
Yeah.
Maybe you're Pitta, obvious. If you really like adopt the diet changes, your exercise changes and all of that. So there's so many ways you can bring it in. Do you have any fun, like little tips or tricks that you do in your life that you like to share?
Absolutely. When I started really committing to Ayurvedic, and it was almost like an experiment. I'm like, let's just give it a shot for 30 days and see how I feel if I slowly implement these things. And one of the first things I did was a kind of a rule I have between me and my partner is that we don't have curtains in our bedroom. And that is because I like to wake up with the sun. And that's a very Ayurvedic thing to do. Wake up with the sun naturally. Ideally, it would be without an alarm clock between 6 to 7 a.m. That doesn't always happen. So, it's okay to have your alarm clock. But when you wake up, think about how the digestive system is number one for health. So immediately go to the bathroom, relieve yourself. And then after the bathroom, wash your hands, do that. But brush your teeth immediately and scrape your tongue. First things first. And then
scrape your tongue?
Yes.
What? Can you elaborate?
Yeah. So while you sleep.
Sandpaper? No. Sorry, go on.
Oh, good question though. So while you sleep, your mouth accumulates a lot of bacteria. So it's really important to rid yourself of that before you drink water in the morning. Because if you just go ahead and try to hydrate, you're going to be swallowing that bacteria. And your tongue houses a lot of that bacteria. So, you could do it with your toothbrush, scrape the tongue, but I actually recommend, and so does Ayurveda, getting a tongue scraper. And they recommend copper for this. You can get one on Amazon for like $5. They're super cheap. And after you brush your teeth, scrape your tongue and see what's on there.
Doesn't hurt.
No, not
Don't do
at
it too
all.
hard.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great just to cleanse the tongue. It's
it improves your breath if you're concerned about that. It helps a lot.
Absolutely. And that's all.
Takes your oral care to a whole new freshness.
100%. And that's all part of Ayurveda. Another practice after you brush your teeth, scrape your tongue, and afterwards, which is surprising to me, but the practices after, is to do oil pulling. And that's become kind of a mainstream thing to do, is to swish your mouth with oil. And there's different kinds of oil that works for your particular dosha, but a tridoshic oil is coconut and almond oil. Both of those are really good for all three doshas. And try swish it in your mouth. Just swish it around for 15, 20 minutes. I know. Maybe you work up to it.
15 seconds.
Maybe 15 seconds at
so
first.
strange.
I know. It's very strange.
And what does it do?
It pulls more bacteria from the gums, from the enzymes of the cheeks, and it's supposed to just cleanse and help you detox, actually. But when you spit it out, don't spit it in the toilet or in your sink. Be sure to spit it in the trash can because it can clog your pipes.
It's oil. Yeah. Smart. Oh, good tip. I've never heard that. Duh. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Right.
So even those little things, I mean, all of that you just shared probably takes 1 or 2 minutes in the morning. It's
exactly.
like super quick, just a way to set yourself up to have a great digestive health day, which helps your mental health.
Yes.
Keeps you energized. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. There's so many different types of practices that you can incorporate into your life. So do you have any resources you'd like to recommend, like a website or people you like to study with?
Oh my gosh. My favorite Ayurvedic practitioner in the US, and has a podcast and a website. She's on Instagram. She's just amazing. And books too. I cannot speak highly enough of her. Sahara Rose. And her website is iamsahararose.com. She wrote, one of my favorite Ayurvedic books is she wrote The Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda. So she's wonderful. She's really she brings it into layman terms, and she's funny. She makes it understandable, digestible.
Really modern.
Yes.
Digestible.
Exactly.
I know.
I know. Seeing if you'd catch that.
I love too, on her website, she has a quiz you can take to find out your dosha. And I love how she offers you 2 different doshas, one that's your mind and one that's your body. Because from what we learned today, your, kind of state that you're born with, your dominant dosha is essentially your personality and mind. And then your body may be on point, out of balance, needing some support, or being really healthy. So it's awesome to kind of look at both of those and see how you can help yourself in millions of ways. So it's awesome. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, I highly recommend going to her website, taking that quiz. And also, this time of the year, if you are listening to this shortly after we record this is late August, about to be September. We're coming into Vata season right now. And so I also recommend more grounding practices. I mentioned earlier bsy.tv. Give it a shot and see. Both Maddie and I have restorative and yin on there, meditations. You can use either one of our first names and get a free first month. So would love to have you practice with us. We're coming into a season of space. So, and it's just also culturally for us in the West, a busy season. A lot of holidays are coming up, a lot of movement, a lot of things to think about. So these grounding practices are going to be very helpful during this time.
Take time for yourself.
Yes.
And are they all 3 seasons equally spaced out? I feel like Vata is so long, fall and winter, or...
I
kind of half and half. It's the
Right.
transition. It's it's not like today is 100 degrees, tomorrow it's 50,
Right, definitely. And I personally feel my personal take on the seasons with Ayurveda is it depends on where you live as well.
For sure.
Like Texas, we aren't going to be feeling like vata,
For a while.
Yeah,
Couple months maybe.
Exactly.
Depends. Who knows?
Right.
We'll see.
But it's important to just look at nature around you, connect with nature, Mother Nature, to connect with your true nature, to connect with everyone else around you.
Ayurveda,
Ayurveda,
study
baby.
of life.
Yes.
Now go scrape your tongue.
And do oil pulling.
Thanks for listening today. We'll definitely be back with more episodes on this topic. We're stoked to talk about tips and tricks on how to live your best life in each season. So we'll be back probably in the next month or so on Vata season, what that means more in depth and how you can serve yourself to set yourself up for the best Vata season ever.
Yay.
All right. Thanks so much for listening and have a lovely day.
Namaste.